Plug yourself into the machine. Become one. Become Apple's new icon. DNA straight to the screen.
Hey guys, welcome back to Floyd's Vintage Guitars. Well, today I have got the most amazing amp to talk about. This is a 1969 Marshall Super Bass, 100 watt, and it is an absolute monster. And famously used by Jimi Hendrix because it had that bigger transformer in it. And of course that meant more bottom end, more clean tone. And it is by far my favorite Marshall amp out there. You can see I've got a 50 watt super lead over there. I've got a 100 watt super lead over there, which actually you can't see. I'm pointing at nothing. Sorry about that. But back to the point. These are my favorite Marshalls for so many different reasons. Check out the video. Hey guys, welcome back to Floyd's Vintage Guitars. Well, today I'm going to be talking about my favorite Marshall amp out of all the Marshall range, and it's my 1969 Marshall Super Bass. And just to put it in perspective, I've got a 1960s Super Lead over there, 50 watt, and I have a 1960s 100 watt over there, 6700 watts. So I can speak from experience. For me, the Super Bass is the monster, is the one to have. And I believe it's because it's got the bigger transformer and it's just got so much more balls. Sorry, there isn't a better word to use other than balls for that particular description. I apologize for that. But it's a fact. It's got a lot more balls. And I know the Super Lead will cut through in a band situation probably a bit better, but I completely get why somebody like Jimi Hendrix would use a Super Bass rather than a Super Lead, because it just added a bit more of that bottom end, you know, which a Fender bass guitar was quite limited in those days. I mean, they weren't huge bass rigs like we have today. They were basically playing through 100 watt Marshalls like this with exactly this, a Marshall Super Bass. And so Hendrix in a three-piece band, I think, used it to just add that little bit of more body to the sound, a little more bottom end. And that's exactly why I use it, because most of my gigs these days I play in a two-piece band, and it's me and a drummer or me and a percussionist, depending on the gig, depending on what he's playing. And I use bass amps like this one as a preference because I'm able to almost get a bass sound along with my guitar sound just by turning a dial. And that is something that your smaller amps are just never going to deliver. And to be honest with you, my Super Leads can't deliver that. They just don't have that growl at the bottom, that bottom end, literally like you're playing with a Fender bass precision next to you in a room. You know, it does that. It's able to add that bottom end dimension, which is just incredible for me. So there you go. I hope that the sound clips kind of put that across, is that this amp, when it's cooking, and you have to get them cooking, which can be a problem because, you know, the best way I can describe a Marshall from the 60s or the 70s is that they were almost too good, in the way that they were so monstrous, they were so loud, they were so absolutely incredible. And guys, nothing else sounds like an old Marshall 3 or 4x12. I'm sorry, nothing else sounds like them. And I'm not a big Marshall guy. You know, if I'm playing a Marshall, I'm going to be playing this one. But most of the time, I'm playing my Fenders at gigs. So for me to say that, you know, it's I'm a little bit biased. But honestly, when these amps are going, a Fender can't come close. Oh, my high watt 100 watt doesn't come close. This thing can make you sound like there's 3 guitar players on stage just by using this amp. And that is the glory of them. But again, that's almost why they're too good, because by the time you're reaching those volumes on stage, people have run into their cars and driven away. There's been cans and cars and everything in the world thrown at you, and soundmen are literally taking sniper shots trying to take your head off, because that is how loud they are. They are ridiculous, they are obnoxious, and that is exactly why I love them. And you can't beat the headroom that this Super Bass has. I mean, it's just insane. So just to put that into perspective again, what I love about this amp is I play with loops. So what I'll do is I will loop a bass line on this guitar with this sub pedal, my octave pedal, lay down a bass line in a 2-piece. Remember, I don't have a bass player, and then I can solo over that. I can kick over pedals, and this amp is never going to fart out. I can lay over 3 bass lines, 2 guitar solos. Excuse me, it's quite hot today. And this guitar is never going to give in. It's always going to be there. It's always going to handle everything. And the PA and everything is just going to be clean. If I had to try that with, say, my Vox AC30, by the time I've laid down a big bass track and I'm trying to solo over it, it just turns to mush. Same with some of my Fenders. As much as I love that Fender tone, you're just not going to get that pure headroom that this Super Bass will provide. That's what makes it special, guys. And on another note, I mean, obviously this is a vintage guitar channel, and I'm obviously a vintage guitar nut. I mean, that's what I love. It's my passion. Yes, I own a winery, and that I'm passionate about too. But when it comes to guitars and guitar gear, I collect the vintage stuff because I believe it is so superior. And I've owned 1 or 2 modern Marshall heads, like the 2000, and a few others that I've tried, and they just don't seem to have the pure wall of sound that these old amps have. And that's what makes them so special. So there you go, guys. Please like this video, please subscribe to this channel, please share this video if you wouldn't mind, it really helps. Comment, tell me why you like a Marshall. Do you prefer the Super Bass? Do you prefer the Super Lead? Do you prefer Marshall over Fender or Hi-Watts or Vox? For me, these, in my opinion, are literally the best amps ever made, but it doesn't mean I'm going to take it to every gig, because you can only use them for certain shows, you know. And I happened to, a year ago, again, I did a gig just a few days ago, and I was lucky enough to do an outdoor festival, and I took this along, and thank goodness I did, because if I didn't, it was windy, the stage was huge. I mean, just, if I hadn't had that amp with me on stage, even in that setting, I'm not talking Wembley Stadium, I'm just talking an outdoor festival, you know, I wouldn't have heard my amp. The wind would have blown my sound away, and now I'm relying on monitors more than anything else, which for me isn't ideal. Even though for most guys today it could be ideal. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna stop there. And like I said, when it comes to the Marshalls, the old Marshalls, the real Marshalls, for me you can't beat the Super Basses. Bigger transformer, bigger bottom end, bigger clean sound. They will dirty up, but they have a trick where if you combine these 2 channels and you turn up the bass a little bit, you're basically cheating, because you've hired a bass player for absolutely free. It works, it's great, it's glorious. So just to talk a little bit about this particular amp, this particular Super Bass, which I use and have used for quite a while now. It's been one of my kind of go-to amps for gigs these days, and it's an amp I just love using because of the description I gave, where it almost adds a bass player into my duo. So it's amazing for that. But this particular one, it is such a powerful amplifier, especially through a 4x12, which I'm running it today through. It is so powerful that I actually only run it on 2 valves. If I had to put 4 in there, it's almost unusable. It's so loud, and it literally shakes the house. You know, it shakes my office, wherever. It will shake any venue. It is that loud, because obviously it's designed for big gigs, and that's exactly why I love it. The Headroom is just incredible. And then also I run this particular amp with my favorite valves, which are KT77s. For those of you who don't know KT77s, they are basically, to me, I kind of call them, even though they're based on the EL34, they're described as EL34 with steroids. And I would say that. They've got a much tighter bottom end. They don't give in as easy as an EL34 does. And they've got I would say it's a perfect blend between a big Fender tone and a big Marshall tone. It kind of gives the glassiness of a Fender and of a 6L6 kind of Fender sounding amp. And then it also gives that huge bottom end, tight, huge bottom end, which I absolutely love. And it suits this amp beautifully as well. So that's something I do with this particular amp, which is, again, I run it on 2 valves, which are KT77s. And even with that, again, I'm shaking the house. You know, I'm shaking any room I'm in. It's just an incredible sounding amp.
fan to the machine. Become one, become Apple's new icon. Dinner straight to the screen.